Roses are red, my console is blue. Thought it would run, but jokes on me too. Fixed one bug, three say hello. Ah, that sweet chaos. We all know.
In our last video, we created this LSP tracker which will show the progress of your LSP in Lua status bar. But since the status bar size is limited, we will be using floating windows to show our messages. Let's create version 1.1. After doing my research, here is the plan. Each LSP job marked by its own token will have its own floating window. When a new job starts, a fresh window appears. As update comes in, the text inside quietly refreshes. And when the job wraps up, the window slips away, leaving no clutter. Just simple text space and a light pop-up. Clean, efficient, and out of the way. First, let's delete everything from our previous video, and we have one error without doing anything. Okay, after deleting everything, we will create few functions. First one of them would be open new win. It will simply take a message and create a scratch buffer, create a floating window, and write this message or the parameter message in that buffer, and that's it. And then it will return the buffer ID and the window ID. Second, we will have update current window function, which will take buffer ID, window ID, and the message as a parameter. It will simply overwrite all the messages in the current buffer or the buffer ID if the buffer ID and window is valid, of course. After that, we will have our closing function, which will again take the buffer ID, Windows ID, here I decided not to use the message as a parameter and instead only put the closing logic inside the close current window function. So in the if else logic later in the handler, I will just update the current window buffer and then close the current window. That's it. Now this function will be called by this fade out win function, which will add a fade out effect to the closing window, and that's why I'm taking the current buffer ID and win ID as parameters. Now this format result function is responsible for creating the string message, which will take the result and context as parameters, and all these details related to one job will be formatted into a string, and then the string will be returned. Now finally, with the handler logic, it will be simple. First we'll be generating the status, then based on the kind value, which will either be begin, report, or end, we will do certain steps. If it's begin, then that means that the job has been started, so we'll be opening our new window with the new status. Then if it's report, that means the job is still ongoing, and we'll be updating the current buffer. Then if it's end, then that means our job has been finished. Then we will simply first update the buffer and then close the window. Now our very first trial, and of course it didn't work. Why? Because I forgot to include this file. What a shame. Second trial, error. Let's check line number 24. And of course, I forgot to pass the strict indexing value. And finally, it runs. No, it doesn't. Okay, line number 36. Neovim when close function expected to arguments. Okay, got it. Okay, after struggling for a bit to close the window, here I forgot to pass the course value. Finally, it's working. Okay, maybe some closing logic is getting skipped because this window is not closed. Okay, let's store the current token, and if the store token is not same with the result token, that means a new job has been allocated. So close the previous window related to the previous token. I hope this logic would suffice, and it didn't work. First I thought this was the error, but it wasn't. To fix this, I tried to use a better handling logic when you close the timer, and also added some logs to understand the problem. And I got one syntax error, and I know exactly why I got it. Side effect of Rust. Thinking that I solved it, I shifted my focus to appearance. What I am trying here is to just position my window at the bottom right of my editor. Now here I just tried to create a log file, but it didn't show up, so I just gave up on it. Later I saw that that log file is created in the current path rather than the project path. Later I did random things to make it work, added these logs to print literally everything. Got this error, fixed that error. Got this massive log and errors. Decided to filter out only creation and deletion events, and found the reason for Windows not closing. First, let's fix the timer because this was causing the error, and there is no error now. Then I deleted the logs and improved the status message, improved the formatting to handle the nil values in a better way. Now the messages are not that ambiguous. Now time to improve the if-else logic. Now that I'm figuring out how to solve the problem, let me explain what was the problem. At first, I assumed the jobs were synchronized, meaning if one job was running or reporting, no other job could start. For example, I thought that if the Rust analyzer was indexing, the artifact building job wouldn't begin until the indexing was done. But I was wrong. Jobs can actually start while others are still running. So now I need a way to keep track of all the active jobs.
Now the solution would be pretty simple. This progress LSP holder table will hold other tables for each active LSP clients, because different windows may have different LSPs running. Now, those LSP clients will contain their respective active jobs, which will be another table that will hold the respective win ID and buffer ID.
And it's working. Now let's make the window unfocusable. Now that every problem has been solved, our main concern is to prevent those windows from stacking up on each other. For that purpose, I updated my update current window function to change the height along with the buffer messages. Now at this point, I was lost. I forgot that our jobs are asynchronous and created a synchronous logic for height handling. That led me to create a new function called update winrows that handles height synchronously. But the logic was also wrong. And of course it didn't work, got an error, fixed it, and still didn't work. So I decided to delete everything and redo everything. And then decided to go for dinner. When I returned, I saw this. Actually, I left one instruction incompleted and forgot to comment out the setup function. And after fixing this, now it's working properly. Now let's continue our work. Now here one idea clicked. I was wondering here if the WinIDs floating windows are serially assigned or they are completely random. That's why I decided to print one and got some errors. Fixed it, then noticed that they're indeed serially assigned. And that led me to the solution. We will be using those WinIDs to manage height. So I created this progress tracker table, and this table will hold client IDs because there might be different clients, and those clients will have different jobs whose keys will be WinIDs, and those WinIDs will store the respective heights. Now, as the WinIDs are serially assigned in this update rows function, we will be traversing through the progress tracker table and check one condition. If the current element's WinID is more than the deleted one's WinID, then we will be simply updating the height and return the maximum height. And it's working properly. Now here I was tweaking how much the height will change, and after trials and errors, I decided to have it at 2.5. Perfect. Now from here onwards, whatever I did was an absolute mistake. I won't even explain what I did. I would recommend you to skip it, but if you want and you have time, then you can absolutely watch. Because I deleted whatever I had done, and this is the final piece of code with some changes. Now at this point, I gave up on whatever logic I was trying to implement, and also gave up on the fade out effect to make this plugin more usable. So now we will be directly calling the close current window function to instantly close the window. So this is the final solution. The windows are not stacking up on each other now because we are closing them instantly. That's the end of our video. If you have watched this far, consider giving a like and subscribe. and feel free to leave a suggestion in the comment section.